KPIs and setting measurable goals for sustainable growth. I'll start with the first one because it's a trap that I believe 80 to 90% of the companies that I've been part of are doing today, which is we're looking to last year's goals and we'll add a 30% growth. Depending on where you are, how many years you've been in business, what's your growth year over year, that's usually kind of like the CFO's hat comes in and we're going to add like 30%. And I want to talk about the impact of this, right? If you don't do it really well, and this is also where revenue operation needs to have a better role. And I think that's a bit of kind of like the balance of revenue operation, right? Between kind of like supporting the revenue engine under the CRO, you got the CFO/CEO kind of like setting the goals for like next year, and CRO that, no offense, right? But I think we're on the wrong screen here.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. And I think the CRO wants to play like be a team player, right? and really want to kind of like get to those goals. But the issue is like if you set those goals too high, which is you probably have seen some of those numbers over the past 2 years where A's attainment used to be kind of like as a team like around like 60% attainment, very healthy. And we'll talk more about like those performance. That has dropped from 60% to 40%. So if you set goals too high, you're probably going to have a sales team that is achieving as a whole 40%. And so what I've seen happening over and over is that obviously the morale goes down. Your rock stars are leaving the company. And now you're replacing your rock stars. And you expect that you'll get the same result as what they did, but you don't. Rock stars were there. They knew the product from the get-go. They were just like ingrained into the culture. They were just like very good at what they were doing. And those new AEs are just not going to perform the same level. And so now you realize that you lost your rock star. You need to backfill them, which takes time and money. And those new AEs are not performing the same level. So now like the overall attainment is even lower. And you keep going through this like this almost like infinite loop around replacing and ramp up and goals not achieving and so on. So, if there's one thing here where revenue operation can really help is sit between the CRO and the CFO/CEO and really ensure that you can hit those goals. It's not just a top down. It's not just a bottom up. It's like something in between, right? Where it needs to be a stretch. And this is kind of like why you have the 15% cushions, which is, I mentioned that. But you need to be able to mold this out in a way that it can be achievable. And for the most part, it hasn't been achievable and creates this like negative morale, people leaving and not achieving the same goals. The next one here is to set your I call it FY26, but it should have been FY25. Sorry. Set the AR by departments. Really like tie those to the departments. What are they responsible for? All of these three teams have to have an AR being tied to. That's their success. You can have sub KRs, but like how much do they need to achieve? Make sure like all of those teams have. And the last piece is the KRs by departments. Just, again, based on best practices, don't go over 5. Most companies that I've seen have way more than 5. They have like a dozen. Just don't have that. Just keep 3 to 5. But 3 to 5 that actually, again, like are going to drive the improvement in your revenue team. So like here we talked about conversions. Conversion is a very big one from the sales team. Like being able to like, just this example of like, increase conversion from 20 to 25%. That's a lot. Again, that's an example. If you feel like you can do it, yes. I've done a lot of different motions, and I think on the SMB, it's a little easier to drive the conversions because you have a lot of like more volume, and you can, from a revenue operation at least, you can actually like bring a lot of like tools into the sales process, where essentially like the AEs or the SDRs are not doing much, and the whole thing is like moving along. It's a little harder for enterprise. I think enterprise is more around like what I talked about earlier. It's like as long as you have this entry criteria from like stage 1 to stage 2 as an SQO, that's kind of how you can drive opportunities. So like really bringing like quality over quantity of those SQL. Um, and then yeah, I've added a couple more here around like marketing. What is your goal? Like we want to improve lead score from 65 to 70. Like what analysis have you done? Like where are they coming from? What is kind of like, how do you reverse engineering around like how to get to them? Which channels are the most successful to get to 70, right? Usually there's a high correlation between this score and close one. So that's something to pay attention to. And the last piece, which is, I think this one is an easy one, right? It's like customer success. Like how do you like reduce churn? Those are like big KRs. And I think like each team should have like some sort of like, high level KRs. Anything you would like to add, Alexander, to this?
Yeah, what we have seen again, Jeremy, is a lot of these goals are very fluffy, and we have seen like 60-70% of the CROs are pressured to get these goals achieved, right? And it is tremendous pressure with less resources to get these things done. So yeah, setting at the right goal with the right metrics, with right data points, with the experience, we have seen other companies working would, set you guys, communicate better with the stakeholders across the board, whether it's finance or CEO or the board, right? Sometimes board, I've seen board members throwing some numbers, can you achieve that? Oh, you can cut some costs in your, operating side. Oh, why can't you deploy an AI tool? And, what you guys are doing, right? So they don't know the reality, and they can throw the numbers, but we have to go as operators, we have to go with data, and we have to go with some realistic numbers, and that's where you can take the pressure off of the table. I think that's what I just want to add it to this deck as well.